When it comes to budget, really what we're trying to determine is how much do we want to spend and how much can we afford, and see if we can't bring those two things into alignment. If we have endless money, which some of us do, there's always still a budget because there's a limit to how much someone is willing to spend on any given project. The architect or your design professional has a clear understanding of what that number is, will help get you to the right contractor and builder using the right subs who are going to be building the right things. And so the first question we have to ask ourselves when we're talking about a budget is, what kind of home or project is this? Is this a work of art, a legacy project, or is it a real estate investment, or is it both? And depending on where on that spectrum we land, that will help us determine what kind of budget we need to set for ourselves and what level of detail and design we need to put into any given thing. And we need to make, on the real estate investment side, something a little bit more general for a more general population who would be willing to buy that investment, but still make it exceptional so that the right people want to buy it for a higher value, right? So a real estate investment becomes a very different project than your particular work of art. Those are the projects I personally love working on because it really becomes an extension of who you are as an individual, and it really is your values in form, in architectural form, and I love helping clients achieve that through architecture. So determining, is it a legacy project or work of art or a real estate investment, is the first step. So the next thing to think about is spend versus afford. We all have a budget. There's only a certain amount we want to spend, but we might be able to afford more. But we might want to spend a whole lot more than we can actually afford. So understanding what we can do is critical in having a successful project. Now, with this, every single region is going to be different. Massachusetts is a different cost of building than Iowa, is different than Arizona, is way different than Texas, is different than Oregon, is different than Utah, is different than Idaho, California. And so understanding your local market and having input from builders in terms of a general price per square foot for a level of detail and finishes is going to be critical to understanding the budget that you should be aiming for. Because I'm telling you, when you hear stuff on HGTV and it's like, oh, here's how much a thing costs, there's a whole bunch of us in the rest of the country outside of Texas that are thinking to ourselves, you guys are crazy. That can't seriously be true. But understanding your local conditions is critical to having realistic expectations. And to have a successful project, realistic expectations are so important. Superstructure, meaning the concrete and all the rough stuff, the wood, the framing, plumbing, etc. Not the plumbing fixtures, but rough plumbing, HVAC. Those are the superstructure of your project. Those are pretty equal within regions, and there's a general superstructure cost where things go crazy as your level of finish. And this is where you need the proper alignment between your builder and the level of finish you want and your budget. You could have $2 a square foot tile, you could have $200 a square foot tile, and that range is a real range in all level of finishes that go into any given home. Having realistic expectations of what your current market rate is on an essential square foot basis is critical to understand when starting your project so you can determine the size. And so understanding where you're willing to compromise or where you're not willing to compromise is really important to getting your budget right. So, in order to set expectations correctly, we need to have a general idea of the level of finishes that you're aiming for and determine whether or not this is a work of art and a legacy project or a real estate investment.